Patriarchy is a hell of a drug. I'm about to do my Hot Works yoga class, but I'm sitting here just waiting for the session to begin. And I taught my friends Justice and the New Testament class last night. And I have to say that patriarchy is a hell of a drug. Why do I say that? Men go out of their way to not see women in the biblical text. Men go out of their way to not see women in the biblical text. Sorry, the thing's going up. And how do I know that? As the invited lecturer into the class to lecture on justice and the New Testament, a white male student, argued me down, does not know Greek, does not know any languages, does not know any history, but argued me down that in the Gospel of Luke, my argument was not what my argument was. And it had to be fathers that Luke was writing about regarding a particular text that I was talking about. So when I get home and I do scripture through womanist eyes, I will talk about this because it's just so fascinating to me that people who don't have a PhD, have never studied the history of the New Testament, don't know Greek, have to argue that the men were doing something that mostly women would do, and have to stand on that hill. And it's funny because I asked the student, what's at stake for you to really hold on to that argument? And the student shot back at me. He said, well, what's at stake for you? And I said, well, I'm the lecturer. I asked you first, and this is my lecture. And then he began to say, well, it's Jesus, and it's the men that Jesus would be explaining this to, and Jesus would be explaining discipleship to the men. And I said, and plus fathers would be the one who would be bringing the children into the temple. And I said, okay. And then I started to explain what's at stake for me. And what's at stake for me is women were always there. I began to explain how women were there. I began to explain that men read this text and then argue that women should not be in ministry, women should not be ordained, women should not preach. And so what's at stake for me is an expanded role for women, both in the biblical text and in the world. So yeah, there's a lot at stake for me, and I come with my cards on the table. And that the text bears it out. So it's just interesting for me that from young ages, and this child is an undergrad. So yeah, it's just interesting that from young ages, these boys are really indoctrinated, and they are indoctrinated to believe that women are really absent from our text. Angela Parker, busy Bible scholar, be bold, be brave, be brilliant, and continue to have these hard conversations.